Hi, this is Jessica Ann, and welcome to this episode of The Art of Humanity. Let's listen, explore, and evolve into the new paradigm and recalibrate our nervous systems with love, compassion, awareness, and empathy. This is episode 73 from Birthdays to Beyond. I titled it this because this week is my birthday, and I'm sharing parts of my process to go beyond the mind. If you're new to this podcast, this is not what I've always done. So I invite you to go through and check out the archives at artofhumanity.io/episodes, where I've interviewed some incredible humans over the years. People like Seth Godin, Richard Rudd, Dr. Kelly Brogan, Alexandra Cousins, and Paul Levy, who's the author of the Wetiko virus, which is probably one of the most important topics to understand in our world today. If you haven't listened to any of these interviews yet, I invite you to check out all of the archives at artofhumanity.io/episodes. You can also listen on Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, wherever podcasts are available. This season is focusing simply on being in flow, and I have found my rhythm, which seems to be releasing an episode every 2 weeks or so. But of course, I'm in divine flow. So I may share something a little sooner, a little later. I'm birthing a new frequency, which isn't codified by productivity or deadlines. Each episode is a download, a transmission from spirit, from source, from the divine. Today's episode is a short one as I sit with this download that's coming through. It's an ode to the divine feminine and the Gemini, where I go within to open my heart and get out of my mind. This podcast is a coming home, and the Gemini in me, with its double personality, is a double instrument to my response to life and existence. There's one part of me, which is a normal human, quote unquote normal as one can be these days, who's absorbed in mere living, who thinks and feels and acts like others. And then there is the seer of things, the mystic in me, the super soul, who is in touch with the eternal fountains of joy and of beauty, who creates from this source and transmutes by its alchemy all experiences into a form of spirit. This poet in me is a maker of words and phrases, imagination and stories. For this magic shares from the highest creative apex, a self-expressive rapture. I love communicating these words through my voice, through my throat chakra. The throat chakra is affected by thoughts and feelings related to speaking your personal truth. It's asking for your needs to be met. So anytime you avoid communication or don't speak your personal truth, the throat chakra becomes blocked. To fully clear your throat, we must communicate and take off our filters. But we've been conditioned to not speak our truth in fear of being inappropriate or offending someone. This is pretty disempowering to all of humanity. But when we practice speaking our truth from a place of love, we empower others and ourselves. So it's important to talk about this deep dream that we're all waking up from. It started back in 2020 when I was in Tulum and I received this, download of what was to come over the next 2 years. And it was really intense, and I really couldn't make sense of it at the time. But, now here we are 2 years later, and it really comes down to the shedding of all parts of ourselves that no longer serve us. We've had to maybe let go of our partnerships. We've had to look ourselves in the mirror and to be conscious in every moment because we're creating our current reality. I've personally recalibrated my nervous system, and thankfully now, it's taken some time, but I'm now mostly existing in my heart chakra, which really serves as a center for love of oneself and of others. Compassion, empathy, and forgiveness are really in this heart chakra. It's associated with unconditional love, compassion, and joy. It's the source of deep, profound truths that often can't be expressed in words. Existing here has allowed me to recreate my relationship with myself, which shapes my relationship with others. So I'm speaking to you from my heart in San Diego, where everything is complete and perfect. And I'm not saying this in a spiritual bypassing way. I'm saying it from a real place that I've been truly embodying. My ego is sometimes afraid to be this naked, but in this awakening journey, I'm only showing up as me, which allows me to more easily let go of everything not meant for me. And it hasn't been easy. Throughout this whole recalibration process, I rested in grace, surrendered to God, the G word, which hasn't been easy to say aloud, especially in a solo episode. I've talked about God on interviews with my guests, but here I am speaking my truth into the microphone. It's been my devotion that has given me this opportunity to speak my truth, to love deeper. It's a cultivated presence and a deep knowing of how I want my life to be with a capital B. But we have been trained to play the charades, to bask in illusions. And I'm not here to placate to these facades of yesterday's paradigm. I'm here to build the new. I beat to the pulse of a distant universe, undergoing countless ego deaths. And now I'm coming to you, finding myself speaking through my very human personality, but in direct contact with the divine, unspoiled by the corruption of culture. From here, I breathe poetry and art, silence and words. It's an ode to duality, because only through polarity we can become a creation of our own temperament, accessing wisdom from a multitude of standpoints. When you draw from direct experience, you only know truth. It's not the truth that comes from facts that someone else tells you, truth from lived experience. It's a truth that's faithful to an inner motive, but it also changes like shadows dancing on desert dunes. As the facades fade away, we're here to revel in the age of falsehoods, for it's an opportunity to cultivate intuition, and it's an invitation to know ourselves beyond all of the roles, beyond all of the labels, identities, and beyond the need to be quote unquote right. We already know the truth. We are now here to feel and be the truth. There's nothing to be afraid of in this lifetime. And this podcast is how I alchemize and share my love with the world. I'm feeling into just what will birth the most love every week, and I'm devoted to truth. As we're approaching the summer solstice, it's a time to check in and to really take stock of how the year has gone so far, to complete things so we can reap what we have sown energetically. Traditionally, this time of year is a time of celebration and matchmaking. It's a great time of year to meet your life partner. It's also a great time of year to go to sacred sites, to travel to the sacred points on the planet, to go hiking and to create a sacred site of your own. Whatever you choose to do during this magical time of year, I hope it fills your heart with love, with grace and gratitude and abundance. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me about the last few episodes. And for those who have left a review, it would mean so much if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or support this podcast on buymeacoffee.com. I will leave the links in the show notes. I love you, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing these downloads with you in this way. To get all the links and show notes from this episode, go to artofhumanity.io/episodes. I hope you have a magical day and a magical start to the summer.